Decred, Tezos are just two of the platforms that have recently launched that aim to solve the governance problem. So first, I want to explain what the governance problem is. I'm going to talk about how Bitcoin handles governance, how Ethereum does, and then how these new platforms aim to do better. And I'm going to, guess what? I am very skeptical of the new methods. So first, just to explain what governance, the issue we're talking about, is if you don't have a central authority, how do you decide what upgrades to do? How do you decide what software to implement, right? In Google, you've got a CEO, you've got a chain of command, and they use that to determine how they improve and grow the software. Bitcoin is somewhat famous for, it's just a group of people and they sort of fight. Now, before I talk about how Bitcoin and Ethereum handle it, let me talk about these new ideas. So the idea with Decred and Tezos, and there's others, is you have the whole community and they have some sort of system with tokens, and the hope is that by using tokens, whether tokens for voting on projects or by there's different methods to how these will all work, but the idea behind it is that there'll be some sort of a system that uses tokens and sometimes voting to determine which software projects will make it through. So theoretically, there shouldn't be as much fighting because there's a system. My problem with this is that I am such a strong believer in that the key to success is having super experts making decisions. And I'm sorry, but the community is not full of super experts. And in fact, for those of you familiar with some of these crypto communities, it's filled with a bunch of, not so experts. And, I might be an expert on analyzing some of these things. I certainly wouldn't be in determining which software to upload, right? And I don't even want that responsibility. So I'm very skeptical that pooling the ideas of the community is going to create an amazing platform. And so that's fine. I'm always kind of skeptical, but I find that most people in the media they think it seems like they think it's a no-brainer. It's definitely going to work out better than Bitcoin and Ethereum. So that tells me that these ideas are overvalued. Now, someday and through experimentation, they come up with a system and it doesn't work, and so they change it, and after many years, maybe there will be a governance model that's sort of automated that is better at getting the top projects out there. But I think that's going to include something where somehow, maybe there's a test you have to pass that proves that you have a certain level of intelligence before you're allowed to make these votes. So we'll see what happens, but I'm not betting on it until I see this working. Meanwhile, people say, oh, Bitcoin, look at that, they don't have any governance. But they're doing pretty good. Listen, Bitcoin's whole strategy is it is the most conservative hard money system. And so it's tough to get things through. The Bitcoin core people are very tough, but they're top developers. So I think it's working. And if you look at Bitcoin, they had that big fight when Bitcoin Cash split off. But if you look at the result now, what happened when Bitcoin forked, which people defined at the time as a big problem with governance, actually, Bitcoin got rid of that 10 to 20% of morons who went to Bitcoin Cash. So it was actually a positive. So I don't have, right now, it seems, I don't have a problem with them. And then Ethereum, their governance is, they've got a huge group of smart people. And by having Vitalik as a leader, so this guy, he knows what he's doing, right? And people say, oh, well, he's a dictator. It's not decentralized because he has so much power. He doesn't have a lot of power beyond the power of respect. People listen to him, and they should. He's smart. This is what I mean by having really smart people making the decisions. But there's a misconception that Ethereum doesn't do research and they just throw things out there. And no, there's research. They have some of the smartest people out there, and like the Bitcoin core people, some of the smartest people. And And especially with Ethereum, their upgrades, they go like clockwork. They set a date, it goes as soon as it launches, you see speed improve, and I don't have a problem at all with the Ethereum governance. So I'm very skeptical of this enthusiasm over these new systems that launch. And also, there's another one, Dash, who when I first heard about this, I was like, oh, this is cool. You know, they have a system where the community votes on the projects. It's this decentralized system for determining what software upgrades they do. And meanwhile, Dash, where's their upgrade? It's way behind schedule. They seem to be floundering. I haven't seen any evidence that their system of having some of the mining rewards going to a treasury to fund software and marketing projects, I'm not seeing anything great coming out of that. So I'm not buying the Decred or Tezos until I see some evidence that this is actually going to work. Let me know your thoughts.